Frances Ellen Watkins Harper was a poet, suffragist, African-American abolitionist, teacher, public speaker, and writer. She was born in Baltimore, Maryland on September 24, 1825, and died on February 22, 1911. She was part of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, which played a role in the federal government and taking a role in progressive reform. She is considered to be the mother of African American journalism. She was born free and had a very successful career, and had her first book published when she was just 20 years old, which made her one of the first African American published writers. Her mother died when she was 3 years old, and from then on was raised by her aunt. She attended a school that was run by her uncle, Reverend William Watkins. Frances had begun to write poetry in her young age and continued to do so for a long time. 5 years later, she moved to Ohio and taught domestic things such as sewing at Union Seminary. At this school, she learned a wide range of literature. John Brown, a leading abolitionist, ran the school. She later became an abolitionist after her home state passed a fugitive slave law. She helped slaves escape through the Underground Railroad, and she also wrote in the newspapers about anti-slavery. In 1854, she published one of her most famous works called Bury Me in a Free Land. She also became an in-demand lecturer and often showed up with other speakers such as Frederick Douglass, Lucy Stone, and William Garrison. Frances wrote many pieces of poetry, including poems on miscellaneous objects in 1854, which was reprinted 20 times, Autumn Leaves, also known as Forest Leaves, in 1845, Poems in 1857, Atlanta Offering in 1895, Sketches of Southern Life in 1872, and The Mature of Alabama and Other Poems in 1892. Her poetry has been stored and collected in the book Complete Poems of Frances E.W. Harper and another book called A Brighter Coming Day. With her publication of 2 offers in 1859, Frances made history. A year later, she married Fenton Harper, who already had 3 children from a previous marriage. She decided to take a break from the spotlight and chose to live with her husband and children in Ohio. In 1862, she gave birth to her daughter, Mary. 2 years later, she came back to the lecture circuit after the death of her husband. During Reconstruction, she was an activist for women's rights, civil rights, and educational opportunities. In 1892, she published her most famous book, that is called Lola Leroy. In 1896, Ida Wells Barnett, Harriet Tubman, and several others went to the National Organization of Colored Women to improve the lives and advance the rights of African American women. Here she was the superintendent of the colored section of the Philadelphia and Pennsylvania Women's Christian Temperance Union, a member of the American Suffrage Association, and co-founder and vice president of the National Association of Colored Women. Frances Harper was religious and was active in both the African American Episcopalian and Unitarian churches. She was even laid to rest in Philadelphia's Eden Cemetery next to her daughter.